Hello, gorgeous one. Welcome back to the Unstoppable You podcast. How are you, my loves? Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited and so happy, so thrilled to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. My name's Evie. I am a life and confidence coach and business mentor, and I'm so excited to be here with you all today, helping you really overcome the fear of being seen and heard and how to overcome that fear of judgment, essentially. And I think we can apply this, as with many of the things that I like to talk about and coach people on and support people with. I feel like this is a topic that overlaps so many different areas of our lives. This could be in any area of your personal life, and it could also obviously be within your business. And I'm predominantly talking about this through the business lens in today's conversation, but much of what I share today is going to be applicable for any area of your life. So save this one, share this with your friends, share this with your loved ones. If you've got someone who you know would really benefit from this conversation, I would love for you to share it with them. So I'm going to share my favorite quote today. I think I have shared this on the podcast, but many, many episodes ago, probably over a year or so ago now. But I really wanted to share this with you today because it's one of my favorite quotes, and it also really relates to so much of what I'm going to be sharing today. Now, before we dive in, I'm so excited. We are going to be opening the doors to the Strategy and Soul Mastermind really soon, next month to be precise, at the time of listening and recording this episode, at the time of recording this episode, sorry. So I'm so excited for the next round. This is going to be the 6th round of the mastermind. It is something that I am so deeply proud of and really excited for this journey to continue. So I'm going to be sharing a whole lot more about that in time to come, but just wanted to plant that seed. If you're in business, if you're a coach, if you are a healer, a space holder, if you have an online service-based business, essentially, I would love to support you to go big on your impact and your income this year, but really ultimately staying true to yourself, really igniting what lights you up, bringing out your unique gifts, making sure that we're being really strategic with our business decisions and all of the how-to stuff. I got you covered, but ultimately my philosophy is business your way. It's creating a really unique business that's going to support you to really shine in your authenticity and bring out your innate gifts that you have, that only you have in the special ways that you do, and to have the impact and the positive impact that you really, really want to have with your people and in your communities. So that's all of what I'm about. And I'm going to be sharing a whole lot more in time to come. So I wanted to keep that, just drop that seed there in case you're interested in joining us. So excited for this. Okay, today's quote. I have to read this one out. I should know it off by heart, really, by now. I mean, it's one of my favorites. So this is a Marianne Williamson quote, and it goes like this. My deepest fear is not that I am inadequate. My deepest fear is that I am powerful beyond measure. It is my light, not my darkness, that frightens me. I'm going to read that one again. You've probably heard this one. It's a brilliant quote, one of my favorites. My deepest fear is not that I am inadequate. My deepest fear is that I'm powerful beyond measure. It is my light, not my darkness, that frightens me. Marianne Williamson. Freaking love this. I think that's so true. And I feel like often we think it's our darkness. Often we think it's our imperfection. Often we think it's in our quote unquote unworthiness, inadequacy, whatever story we're telling ourselves. That is the thing that scares us the most. But I ultimately believe that it's our light, it's our magic, it's our true authentic power, it's our creativity, it's our truth, our self-expression that I think ultimately, feels really scary, right? If we were to fully embrace that and feel the power of that. I think that sometimes feels really daunting for some people. I certainly experienced many times of that in my time, but I think it's this beautiful reminder to actually lean into that and actually that's a really beautiful thing, that it's a good thing, and that we want to let that light out more and more and more. Okay, so let's dive into today's conversation. How to be seen and heard without the fear of judgment. Okay, so I feel like many of us will have moments of this in our lives, in our businesses, especially if you're newer to business, if you're first starting out, if you're putting content online, if you're starting social media channels or marketing channels, if you're starting your own podcast or YouTube channel, whatever it might be. oftentimes this fear of judgment pops up, right? Like we're like, oh, what is so and so going to think? You know, those friends from high school or a family member, or just maybe there's not even a specific person. Maybe it's just that, what are people going to think? How is this going to be received? What are they going to think about me? What does that mean for me? Yeah. And I think I think it's really common. So I just want to say, I see you, I feel you, and let's not let that paralyze you. Let's not let that be the thing that stops you, because that would be such a shame. Because I know that you have so much magic and light and gifts to share with the world, and we need that in you. We need that coming out, right? So where do we start with this? Look, I think there's lots of things that I wanted to share with you around this, and look, I just wanted to maybe share a little bit of a backstory, actually. So recently in our mastermind, with the current round of the mastermind, we did a workshop. I ran a workshop with the girls last week, I believe, and it was all about creating a personal brand and not becoming an influencer, but becoming a person of influence, and how personal brands are the way of the future. And I'm going to be sharing a whole lot more on that specific topic in time to come. I might actually do a masterclass about that, which would be really fun. But personal brands are the way of the future with online businesses. And we were really talking about, like, how can we start to embrace this concept of creating a personal brand, and how do we create this brand identity? And we were talking about brand identity. And of course, this brings us right back to my core key topics and things that I love to support people on, which is authenticity. Really being your most authentic self and letting your gifts shine through, and sharing your voice, your story, your message, sharing the stuff that really matters and that it's important to you. And that is what I believe a true personal brand is, really at its core, is you being you. It's you sharing your most authentic self in a really empowering, beautiful way. And obviously, it's not that we have to share all of ourselves in our businesses in every way. No, you get to obviously decide what parts you share and how much and all of those sorts of things. It's not that we have to be completely open with the entire world on social media or on the internet. However, people want to feel the real you. They want to get to know you. They want to know the person behind the brand, behind the business, or behind the service, whatever it is that you do. And so we were talking about this a whole lot in the mastermind, right? We had this beautiful workshop and it was an interactive experience. And I got the girls to talk about the other masterminders and share some beautiful insights and wisdom about what they see, or how they would describe the other person's energy and their essence, and a bit about them. And it was just the most magical experience. My mastermind girls who are listening to this episode will know exactly what I mean. We left all just feeling high on life, and just our cups were so filled. And it was just this beautiful moment where we really could see and recognize the other person in their essence and their magic and their truth and their authenticity. And this is why I love the mastermind so much, is that it's such a beautiful space to do this in, where it's a beautiful, intimate, tight-knit group where, and all like-minded humans, obviously, where we can reflect back and support and guide these other humans in the best way. And this was just one example of it. But it was really wonderful. And obviously, we all shared ideas about each other, right? And so much of it, like, we all agreed essentially, and there was so much overlap, there was so much, just beautiful love in the room. And it was really cool because many of the girls, when they received their feedback and the ideas and insights that everyone else was sharing about them, they were like, oh my goodness, wow, I didn't see myself in that way. Or, oh, I kind of thought that was me, but wow, you've put it in these really beautiful words. Or it hits a little bit differently hearing someone else reflect that back to me. Or, hey, actually, everyone in the Zoom room here, all of us girls in the mastermind have actually shared a very similar thing here. Maybe this is something for me to fully own and embrace. Like, maybe I'm not fully seeing this as my gift. And so it's just a really beautiful, beautiful moment. And we've had lots of wonderful follow-up conversations around this, about the personal brand and around content and around sharing our authenticity and sharing our vulnerability online through our businesses, with some parameters, with some boundaries around that. And it comes back to this whole concept of authentic expression, essentially. And that's what I really wanted to share with you today. And someone asked just recently, obviously with the podcast award, as you all know by now, award-winning podcast. Go us. Um, someone who is not in my business world. It's actually another mum. I know when we have similar age kids. Anyway, she's like, congratulations on the award. She's like, I didn't know. I've never talked to a podcaster before. Like, how do you create podcasts? And she shared with me, like, how do you always come up with podcast ideas and topics? And I was like, oh, I just like joked and I was like, a girl can talk and I love talking and I never have an issue with coming up with ideas and what to talk about. And you give me a question or give me a topic and I can riff on it for ages. But actually, in all seriousness, I couldn't talk on every topic and I couldn't just talk about random things that I don't care about. And that actually, I reflected on this, and what I wanted to share with you here is that when you're being your most authentic self and when you're in alignment, then the things that really matter to you come effortlessly, they come easily, and they just flow. So I feel like when we're talking about, like, how do I show up and be seen without being afraid of judgment, it's this authenticity piece that I think is the key to it, but also the thing that I think trips people up a lot, because they're like, well, is it enough to be my most authentic self? Like, can I be my most authentic self? Oh, but that seems way more scary if I was vulnerable or if I actually shared who I truly am and I took off these masks. But actually, that is the antidote. That is the key to it. This is the ultimate key to it. This is the answer. But also when you're thinking about showing up and sharing and just that idea of the podcast conversations and how do I come up with topics, when you're in this energy and when you're being your true self and when you're talking about the things that matter to you, like when you're talking about your soul work and your business and serving your clients, that's the stuff that you could talk about for hours and hours and hours, right? And so those are where the endless ideas for content and creating podcasts and YouTube videos and those sorts of things come from, is that when it truly comes from you. Now, why do we like have so much fear around showing our true selves? And I mean, this is going to be different for everyone here. And me as a life coach and a lover of one-to-one life coaching services, where we can really unpack your uniqueness and your unique stories and situations and things that have contributed to this. That's like, I love that because it's so personalized. And shoot me a DM or click the link in the show notes if you want to get in touch about the life coaching one-to-one work. Would love to support you with that. But anyway, for the purpose of this podcast, I would love for you to consider, where does that story come from that I can't be my full self or I can't be my most authentic self online? Maybe there's a story around, maybe that wasn't fully loved or accepted growing up, or that's the perception that you got or the story that you made up around it, the belief that you created around that. Maybe it's a little bit about discovering yourself, but many times I find through many years of this work with lots of clients, it's not normally about rediscovering that part of you. It's actually just about taking off the layers that aren't you, the conditioning and the layers or the masks, the things that you put on because you thought you had to, or society told you had to, or your parents told you had to, or the girls at school told you that you had to be a certain way, and actually just taking off those layers and allowing your most authentic self to shine through. So where does that story come from for you? Is there past links or stories or situations that are related to this? And how can you start to process and release those? Because that's going to give you some really great insight and support you to then start showing up as your most authentic self online. So the other thing I wanted to share is like, okay, so right, I hear you, Evie. I need to be my most authentic self. I need at least sharing as much or the version of that I'm happy with in terms of my business context or any area of your life. So I hear you on that one, Evie. But what if I get some backlash? What if I get some feedback about this that isn't so great? Or what if I still have this sinking feeling of fear of what if someone's going to judge me or reject me? And so here's what I want you to know about that. If you're worried about someone judging you, then I would ask yourself to really think about what that actually is. Like, really sit with that. And most of the time, it's either this blanket fear that we put on it. Like, I'm just generally scared of what if someone says something bad? Or what if, there's no specifics around it. It's just like, what if something bad happens? And I'm smiling and I'm laughing with this, but that I know it's so valid when you're in that feeling of it, right? But it's really interesting, and when we can catch our mind and be like, we're actually just like having this really broad, general blanket fear of judgment. And actually, what is it really telling me here? Is there any specifics that I'm actually scared of? Like, really get curious about what that fear is telling you. And if there is a true fear of judgment about something, like, I'm really scared if someone says you should be a physio, and like, why on earth did you leave your stable physio job in the hospital system in New Zealand and go create an online global business and be a coach? And maybe I've got a specific name tied to that, right? And if there was any specific fear of judgment or rejection or whatever it might have been around a specific person or a specific story or a specific thing, then I would lovingly challenge you to do some self-inquiry about that one. Because oftentimes the things that we're scared about, if we're truly scared about someone judging us on something, it means that we're also judging ourselves on that thing. It means that we're also judging ourselves on that thing. And so then the work is, how can I relinquish that? How can I start to soften that? How can I start to love and accept this part of me? And maybe if you're judging yourself, sometimes this is true. Maybe if you're judging yourself and you're worried about people judging yourself, maybe we just need to let that go. Maybe that isn't actually authentic to you. Maybe that isn't actually your truth. Maybe that does need to be reframed or tweaked or, elevated in some way. Or maybe just fully let it go. Maybe it isn't. Or if it does feel true for you, if you know that actually I'm judging myself around, it feels a bit icky, but I do actually know that this is true for me and this is right, then it's about, well, why am I judging myself? And I would lovingly, inquire about, where does this come from? What am I saying to myself? And how can I fully collect up all those bits and love on them and give myself a whole lot of self-compassion here and embrace and accept those parts of me, or that thing that I'm scared someone judging me for, right? Because what I would really wanted to share here is the key thing around, if you're showing up and you're putting yourself out there in your real life and face-to-face, in real life face-to-face connections and conversations and spaces and in events and things like that, and or in the online space and social media and emails and podcasts, whatever, if you're sharing your most authentic self and you say, hand on heart, I am living my truth, and I am sharing my thought leadership, or I'm sharing my lived experiences, or I'm sharing what's really important to me. And if you know, and this is where you have to do the hand on heart, I know that I am fully being true to myself here, then really that's all that we can ask for. And that's more than okay. And if you're standing in your truth, then no one else's opinions should matter. Maybe there's some wobbles from time to time. That's okay, you're human. But if you come back to your heart of hearts and be like, actually, I stayed true to myself there, or actually I zoomed out and I've taken the emotion away, I've unpacked it a wee bit and I can see it more objectively now, and I can see actually that is the real Evie showing up there, or that actually does really matter to me and I'm going to keep talking about that kind of topic. Or that is how I would respond or how I would answer or whatever it is. So if you're standing in your authenticity, if you're standing in your power, if you're being true to yourself, if you're sharing what's on your heart and showing up as a good human, which I know you all are here, then that is all that matters. And if other people want to unfollow, delete, not listen, whatever, that's absolutely fine. We welcome that. You will repel some people, but you will magnetize the right people. That's what we want. We're not for everyone. And I know that that's a really hard pill to swallow, especially from someone like me, who's a Libran and a social butterfly and wanting to serve and be of service to everyone and keep the peace and the harmony. That's a hard thing to do, or a hard truth to swallow. But absolutely in time, I've learned that one. And I think it just really comes back to So yeah, dismantling that fear. Where does it actually come from? And am I judging myself here? If the perceive, I'm scared of someone judging me about something, but actually maybe I'm actually judging myself in this, about this. How can I start to love and accept that and release that and let that go? And then ultimately coming back to true, authentic self-expression. If you're being your true self, if you're showing up in your authenticity and in your values, sharing what's meaningful for you, leading with service, with a beautiful heart, then that's all you can really do, right? And I think that should be enough. So how do we start to be seen and heard more? How do we start to share our most authentic self more? We unpack that fear, we let that fear go, and we take baby steps. And we do it in trusted, safe spaces first. Another beautiful mastermind example that I wanted to share with you from a current client in the mastermind. Holla to you, you'll know this story. She has wanted to do her own podcast for some time. She has an incredible idea and concept of it. She's created so much behind the scenes for this. And it's taken some time for various different reasons, but we've come back to this idea and she was like, I really want to share this. I really want to talk about this. And what's been so wonderful for me is that there's been other beautiful women in the mastermind that have just been so supportive of me doing this. And they're like, yes, or we want to hear your podcast, and like, when is it coming out, and lovingly supporting her on that journey. And of course, I've been one of those people too, but it's so wonderful to have that beautiful mastermind around you where you've got these beautiful other like-minded humans that you can share these ideas and these like, oh, I think I want to do this, but man, like, it's really hard and scary to voice that out loud, or it's something that you would never tell, your family, or well, maybe you would, but it's so wonderful to have a safe space where there's like-minded humans and in a really trusted, safe way that that you're in safe hands here, that you can share your most authentic self, or you can share your creative ideas, and that there's zero judgment, that there's ultimately just love. And it's really wonderful to have those spaces where you can test out the waters a little bit, start talking about these ideas, or start sharing more of your authentic self, or start sharing more of your vulnerability in these spaces. And I think it is important to choose wisely when you start this journey of expressing your most authentic self, as it feels still a bit stretchy and wobbly, as you're building the belief and the confidence along the way, because it does take some time, right? But you'll get there. Absolutely. You've got to start taking the action though, right? So if you can do this in really small baby steps, and if you can do this in really safe, trusted hands and spaces, my goodness, it's going to support you so much. Because when you have like, nothing bad happened here, I wasn't judged, or it was so well received actually, and then it gives you that beautiful, even though I never recommend we only outsource that from external validation, it absolutely should come from within. But when you can do it in a really beautiful, safe place, and in a small group, or in with a girlfriend or someone you really love and trust, then that's really, really supportive for you in those earlier stages. So you can be like, cool, I've done this here, I can step out of the box now, I can take another step, or I can stretch myself even further. Okay, I've just talked for ages and ages there. Hopefully that was really helpful for you. I'm in that days where I'm like, I just riffed and I just channeled, and I think it was really good. And I'm really hoping it was really good, but I've also kind of like lost about what did I actually say. But here's my recap from what I remember. I think true authentic expression and creating a personal brand is the way of the future if you're an online business owner, and particularly online service-based business owner. So if you're a coach or a space holder or a healer of some sort, an online service, then you need to build a personal brand and getting really good at embodying and embracing that impersonal brand alongside / with your business. Depends. There's nuance there. We can talk about that. If you've got questions, shoot me a DM or pop a question in the comments below. We'd love to chat about it. So yeah, this is the way of the future. And so a big part of that is sharing your most authentic self, is sharing your vulnerability, is sharing you. And that is so important. I think it's also really wonderful, like I shared with the mastermind example earlier, having someone who really knows you and sees you and gets you, and a similar like-minded person that is going to be able to reflect back some of these things that sometimes we don't always see within ourselves, or maybe we need to lean in and embody them more. And that's a wonderful, like, one of the big pluses and benefits of coaching is to be able to have that, whether that's one-to-one where your coach is reflecting that back, or in a mastermind space or a group space where you're also the other humans in that group is also reflecting that back. It can be so delicious and wonderful and empowering in all the ways. So much growth in that. So that is really the way. If there's a fear of judgment, what is that judgment? Self-inquiry around, is it safe for me to be my most authentic self? Yes, no. And maybe there's a few stories and past experiences to unpack and let go of there and do some healing around. Would love to support you. If that's you, shoot me a DM again, or click the link in the show notes, and book yourself a free call. We can chat about it on there. But ultimately, peeling back some of that layers, getting really curious about the authenticity piece and the fear of judgment around that. If I show up and share this thing, is there specifics around it? Could I actually be judging myself if I'm scared about someone else saying something in particular or judging me about a certain thing? Is it actually that I'm judging myself here? And do I need to give myself a whole lot of love and self-acceptance around this thing and stop judging myself for this? And when I fully own and claim that, weight off your shoulders. And if you are standing in your truth, if you're standing in your authentic self, if you're being true to who you truly are, then no one else's opinion really matters. And if there is naysayers, if there's some kind of backlash, which most of the time there isn't, but if there is, then hand on hearts, that you are being true to yourself. And that's all you can do. You're not for everyone, but you will be for a lot of people. And we want to magnetize those people, but the only way to magnetize those people in is if you are your most authentic self, if you really share that. Otherwise, no one's going to be able to feel that or see that in you, right? And baby steps, sharing it with safe spaces, safe people, etc., and start growing and expanding and pushing that comfort zone. Small steps compound over time. Alrighty, my loves. What a juicy episode. That was so fun. Anyway, my loves, my one-to-one coaching books are open. So let me know if you're keen to do some one-to-one life coaching. And the Strategy and Soul Mastermind is coming back really soon. So if you are in business and you are starting out or building, growing your beautiful, heart-centered, soul-led business, and you're a coach, creative, or a space holder, an online service-based business owner, and you want to create beautiful impact and income through your gifts, then that is absolutely the program and container for you. I'm really excited. So stay tuned. There'll be a whole lot more on that to come. All right, my loves, that is it from me today. I'll see you soon.